Hello everyone and welcome to another of my minimalist cooking videos. Today I have one of my favorite dinners of all time, meatloaf. With just a few basic ingredients, a little bit of equipment, and some knowledge, you too can make this. Let's get started. To begin, we're going to place 1 to 2 tablespoons butter or margarine into a small saucepan on your stovetop. That's right, this recipe is actually going to start on the stovetop but finish cooking in the oven. We are going to pre-cook our aromatics, our garlic and onion, so that everything has a nice, rich flavor to it, and you don't have raw chunks of garlic or onion in your finished product. Trust me, this little step here is absolutely worth the effort. Turn your stovetop onto a medium heat and on with the next ingredient, 1 tablespoon of cooking oil. The reason I'm going to use 2 different fats here while I'm cooking off my vegetables is so that we have a nice rich flavor from the butter and we have the volume from the oil that we need to actually cook through. Moving on, we're going to start with garlic. We have 3 to 5 cloves of garlic. You can use as much or little garlic as you like. To begin, we need to get the garlic separated from the skins. Simply place the back of the knife onto the garlic and smack it with your palm, fingers curled away. As you can see, the skin separates directly from the meat. We're going to dice it up and place it into the pot. Next up, we have 1/3 to 1/2 of an onion. White onion, yellow onion, even red onion work great in this dish. Begin by slicing your onion in half, and then run your knife up the edge so you can peel the outside couple of layers off. Just make sure to get off all the exterior paper as well as any extra roots that are sticking up. Go ahead and toss those in the garbage and we will begin to slice our onion. As I'm doing here, start by slicing the onion radially twice so that we get some nice little sandwich style layers of onion. From here we're going to rotate it until it's face down and then slice it in half. And then turn 90 degrees and then do a dice. We are looking for a relatively fine dice on these onions. We do not want really large pieces. This is still quite a large dice, so I'm going to go ahead and run my knife through this a few times over so we can get some nice small pieces. Go ahead and put that in the pot with our garlic and then get that to sweating and simmering away. And seasoning as we go, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of salt to our garlic and onion mixture as it is sweating away. Go ahead and mix that in really well and take a look. This is exactly what you're looking for. You don't want any color at this point, just that the onion and garlic are getting soft and really becoming aromatic. Next up, we're going to make our panade. This begins with 4 to 5 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. If you've never heard this word before, panade is just a fancy way of saying a bread mixed with a liquid. This mixture will add a tremendous amount of moisture as well as tenderness to the meat. Adding a panade is a technique that is very traditional to making meatballs. To this, we are going to add 4 to 5 tablespoons of milk. Although I'm using panko breadcrumbs and milk for my recipe today, this really can be done with almost any style of bread and any style of liquid. Panko crumbs, Italian-style breadcrumbs, even white bread or sourdough ripped up into pieces work really well, so feel free to let your imagination wander. Likewise, in place of the milk, you could use something like a nice beef stock as well. And it looks like the onions and garlic have sweat nicely. There's no color on them, however they become nice and soft and tender, quite aromatic. We're going to go ahead and pull those off onto a small plate and let them come down to room temperature as we continue on cooking. Getting our oven tray ready, we are going to line this with aluminum foil. I am actually using a toaster oven in this case. As I said, I am a minimalist cook. I don't have an oven, so I'm using a little toaster oven. And lubing up everything, I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of cooking oil. Feel free to use non-stick cooking spray as well. We just want to spread that out evenly over the aluminum foil so that nothing sticks. And now we have the star of the show, the ground beef. Here I'm going to be using 400 grams of ground beef. My grocery store only sells one type of ground beef, and that is ultra lean. I do not recommend that you use ultra lean in this recipe though. A mix with a bit more fat in it is actually going to turn out a much better product. If you can get something like an 85-15 or 85% lean muscle mixed with 15% fat, that will actually make a product that is much more tasty, much more tender, and much more juicy. And if all you have is lean ground beef, another trick that you can use to make it much more juicy is to cut up a few rashers of bacon into nice small pieces and add them directly to the meat mixture. It will add a tremendous amount of flavor as well as a little bit of that needed fat. Another good option to consider is if you're looking to make a much healthier version of this dish, you could use something like ground turkey or ground chicken and follow this same recipe. It will create a nice, moist, and delicious finished product. Just learning a few of these simple techniques will really allow you to take these recipes in their own direction and make them to your exact liking. And of course, practicing seasoning as we go, we're going to add 2 to 3 teaspoons of salt directly to our meat. For an extra kick of flavor, you could swap the salt for ground beef bouillon. And here I'm going to be adding about 1 to 2 tablespoons of soy sauce to my mixture. However, I highly recommend that you use Worcestershire sauce. It is not only much more traditional, I think it turns out a better product. It is just really hard to come by here in southern Thailand. Next up, add our cooled mixture of onions and garlic to our beef mixture. After sitting for about 10 minutes, the breadcrumbs in our panade mixture have completely absorbed the milk. This will bring flavor, texture, and moisture to the finished product, so we're going to go ahead and add that right in. Now, normally to this recipe, you would add an egg at this point. However, since my beef is so lean, I went ahead and left that out. If you're using extremely lean meats, you should leave out the egg so it doesn't get too dry. But you will definitely want to add an egg if you're using the recommended, say, 85-15 or 80-20 blend. Note that I'm using the tip of a fork to just bring everything together in the bowl slightly. You really don't want to overwork this mixture. It is very important not to overmix this. You're looking to just use the tips of your fingers and make sure that everything is well integrated and thoroughly mixed throughout this. Mixing this too aggressively will result in a meatloaf that is quite mealy and hard, which is not what we're looking for. This recipe makes 2 very generous individual sized meatloaves. Using very gentle motions, here we're going to form it with our hands, not being too aggressive at any point. You do not want to squeeze and force it like a snowball into a nice tight pack. That is not what you're looking for. If the beef mixture is sticking to your hands at all, you can lubricate them with a little bit of cool water. And of course, just like many recipes, you can season to taste. My wife prefers to have her food rather bland, and I, on the other hand, like to have my food filled with heat and spices. By breaking these down into personal-sized servings, it gives you a little bit more flexibility and variety over making one large meatloaf. This is really great if you have some picky eaters in the house or children. For example, I've added ground black pepper, some hot spices, as well as dried herbs to my portion of meatloaf, just to give it a little bit different flavor and suit it to my liking. Of course, you can add anything that you so desire. And that variety and flexibility extends to the sauce that you choose to cover your meatloaf with as well. Here you can see I'm using 2 different sauces. On my wife's portion of meatloaf, I'm going to go ahead and cover this with a nice thick layer of tomato ketchup. This is a very traditional topping and what you're going to see on most recipes. It works great. However, I like to do something a little different. I prefer barbecue sauce myself. Regardless of which type of sauce you prefer, you want to go ahead and cover the entire surface completely in a nice thick layer before placing into the oven. And you're going to want to bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 40 minutes, depending on how thick your meatloaf is. Considering that I bring you minimalist cooking videos, I thought it'd be a great adventure to show you just how minimalist my situation is. That's right, my oven is outside and it is a toaster oven placed on top of my washing machine. I even have to check the doneness of my food with a flashlight because there aren't any lights out here. Guys, this just goes to show you how minimalist you can be and still make delicious food. If I can make these amazing dishes with a $20 toaster oven sitting outside on my balcony, I promise you that you too can do this at home in your oven. And back to the recipe. For the last 5 to 10 minutes of cooking, we are going to actually crank the heat up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit so that we can go ahead and get a nice caramelization on the meatloaves. With the sauce beautifully caramelized and the meat finished, we are going to pull them out of the oven and sit them here on the counter. It is very important that you let them rest for 10 to 15 minutes so that all the juices can collect and they don't run everywhere when you cut into them. Look at these delicious beauties. This is what you're looking for in a finished product. Completely cooked as well as a nice caramelized sauce on top. All there is left to do now is to dish up. If you found this video helpful, entertaining, informative, please give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel, leaving a comment, and make sure to hit that bell icon so that you're notified every time we release a video. I'm a bit traditional myself, so I like to serve my meatloaf with a nice side of fluffy garlic roasted mashed potatoes. Let me know down in the comments if that's something that you'd like to see a recipe on in the future. And here's a completed plate with the tomato ketchup sauce on top, my wife's portion. Looks delicious. Of course, that's the beauty of making a personal style meatloaf is that you can have a little bit of variety. Here I've got my barbecue sauce topped meatloaf. Made it up with a nice portion of that delicious fluffy garlic roasted mashed potatoes and carrots to finish out. This is a meal that anyone could love. The best part, it is just that easy. You don't need any special ingredients, any special skills or equipment to make delicious food in your home like this every single day for you and your family. I really hope that I've inspired you today to try this recipe out in your own home. Let me know how it goes down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching.